Hello, ladies. It's Renee, host of the Welcome to Your Life podcast. Have you thought of recording your own podcast, but the thought of learning new technology was too frightening? I know exactly how you feel. That's how I felt until I found Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place, and it's free. You can record from your phone or your computer, and the creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They'll even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many, many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Trust me, you will not regret it. Just play, have fun, enjoy the game. Michael Jordan. You are listening to episode 23 of the Welcome to Your Life podcast. Welcome to Your Life is a wellness podcast for women juggling midlife, self-care, and work-life balance. On this show, we talk about everything from fashion to hot flashes. I am your host, Renee Reed, yoga teacher, certified health and parenting coach, and your loudest cheerleader. Are you a monthly donor? If you answered no, you can join the club today for just 99 cents per month. Your donation helps us to continue the work of advocating for women's health and providing free or low-cost yoga classes to women who may not otherwise get to experience the life-changing benefits of yoga. Join today. We can't do what we do without you. I am so pleased to announce that the Ruby L. Stewart Health Coaching Scholarship is now open. There are 10 scholarships available. The scholarship, named after my mom, who passed away due to complications from diabetes, MS, and breast cancer, allows the winner to take $200 off the Welcome to Your Life 30-day or 90-day health coaching programs. These customized programs will help you to gain control of your health without dieting or starving yourself. The door closes August 4th, so let's find out what's been holding you back from living your best life. Schedule your free discovery call today. The link will be in the show notes. Today's show is a special edition of Welcome to Your Life. I'm calling it Generation Gap. Can a baby boomer and a millennial agree on anything? In this episode, I'm talking to my son, Matt, a millennial, and we're unpacking these questions. Can parents push their kids too hard to excel at sports and or academics? And what does this vigorous encouragement do to the parent-child dynamic? A new school season is about to begin, so if you or someone you know has a budding scholar athlete or mathlete, you want to share this episode with them. Now, on to the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the Welcome to Your Life podcast. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of welcoming my number 3 son, Matthew, on the podcast. Hey, Matt, what's up?
Hey, what's good?
Hey.
Number 3 is the best.
Where are you now?
I'm in Brooklyn. You could probably hear it, actually. Brooklyn is very loud tonight. It's the summer, you know.
And it's Friday.
It's Friday. You know, people are selling things. People are trying to get their hot girl summer going, and Yeah, they got the music popping.
That is amazing. So Matt and I are calling this segment of the Welcome to Your Life podcast Generation Gap. We were talking the other day, and we figured out that we were the voice for our generation. So I am speaking not for all baby boomers, but for a few of us. And Matt, who are you? A millennial?
I think I'm generation. But I think the term is Generation Z. Don't quote me. I don't know things, but like, let's use millennial. People are familiar with millennial. I'll be a millennial today.
Yeah, I think all of you are millennials. I think Alex just made it as a millennial. I think you and Martha are definitely millennials.
Yeah, I think it's everyone like wears Vans. I think that's the distinction.
Okay.
Yeah.
So today we are talking about why parents put their children in so many after-school activities. And we're really going to talk about, the system that requires athletes to start at such a young age and play, month after month, year after year in order to get a scholarship to college. Like you guys were, you and your sisters were blessed to be able to do sports in college. But looking back on it, I can't remember when you had a break, and I can't remember when I had a break. And I think
full-time job for everyone.
Yes, and I think the system itself needs to be, tweaked or just maybe crashed and start over. I don't know. And the reason that this is really coming up for me is because I'm talking to student athletes who are about to go to college, and I'm asking them, do you have your film? Did you pick your school? Are you inviting coaches to your AAU games? And it's like, okay, I'm not talking to them about, hey, so what did you do fun over the summer? Did you get to the beach? Did you have a family reunion or something? Everything in their lives and everything in the lives of the people around them centers on whatever sport they're playing. Or even, for those students that aren't athletes, maybe they're in academics and they are, studying like it's a full-time job. Like there's no more nights where you don't have homework. So now to get a scholarship now to a school, to any school, that you are required to have really good grades, tons of community service, stellar, recommendations, and it's just a lot.
Right. Oh, I definitely agree.
What do you think about it?
So, I mean, the level of activity that a lot of parents are putting their kids into for, like, ensure they have a nice future. I think when I was younger, like I'm 26 now, and when I was, I started doing sports at like 6?
5, 3?
5, right.
Yes, because everyone started with soccer at the Y, and you guys were 3.
RIP the YMCA in Northfield and Bedford.
Yes.
But, everything's closed in Bedford now. It's just across the suburbs in the Midwest. But that's a different conversation. I think, for me, the activities at the time.
What are some of the things that you did that your dad and I made you do?
Okay. First, so the soccer, like you said. Then there was T-ball. There was Cub Scouts. There was Boy Scouts. There was karate. There was basketball. There was flag football. There was, did I say T-ball? Let's just throw that in there again. Yeah. There was this city council mock trial kind of thing when I said that I wanted to be a lawyer, and everyone took that more serious than I was ready to. There was track and field, which became like my main thing. Track and field and basketball became like my two that I was like, okay, I'll do these two.
Don't forget piano.
Piano, summer camps, church camp. What else? Swimming lessons every summer.
Yeah.
Still can't swim, but we were busy, so that counts for whatever it counts for. I don't know. Everything kind of, and in a lot of ways, my view has changed on what that felt like or what that means or like whatever for my life. I think when I was younger, I was very stressed and kind of just was like, well, why can't we watch TV? Or like, why can't we just celebrate 4th of July? Why do we have to go to basketball practice? Why can you not, at least as far as Dad was concerned, why can you not address me just as a son? Why does it always feel like coaching? Like you're in coach mode. And so my when I say my idea about that time has changed, I mean, now as a 26-year-old, I look at all those activities and I'm blessed. I realize that was like as much, and we'll talk about systems and we can get into that. But I think the involvement, the level of involvement in activity you had us all in, really shaped us now in ways that I realized the foundation y'all were setting. Like when I look at people even my age and the health issues they have, or the lack of experience they have in social settings, or in joining a club, like a lot of people don't even know what hobbies they would like to participate in outside of like the things that make them money. And so at the time it was very like, what the hell? Oh, y'all say hell? Y'all cuss on this show? I cuss.
I guess we do now.
Oh, I mean, Mom, I'm not going to be OD, but, I'm going to drop a few.
Oh, Lord.
So, like, yeah, at the time, I had a very fraught relationship with all those activities, and now I realize that y'all were setting us up to have active lives and also, like, be able to find ways to be engaged in our communities, like our immediate communities.
Right.
And I see a lot of people lacking those skill sets and those experiences. And so, removed from all the torture, I feel very good about the activities and the level of engagement we had there. Yeah.
I think for me, part of it was I wanted you guys to have a well-rounded life.
Mm-hmm.
And to be in as many activities as we could afford to put you in.
Right.
The activities that your dad and I did not get to partake of, living in the inner city in Cleveland.
Right.
And then the other part is that raising you guys as a single parent, in my mind, the busier you were, my vision for our family was education, self-care, and education. So it was like those are the two things that we pursued as a family. But I didn't realize, and I don't think a lot of parents realize, the amount of time that it takes to raise a student athlete who can actually not just play ball or run track, but can actually move in a social situation and not feel intimidated or overwhelmed. And the same thing goes for, parents that are raising, academics. Are you giving that child room outside of studying to mingle with other kids their age so that they have a solid foundation of what it means to be with a peer? How do I, talk to a friend? Or if I'm having a breakdown, do I have somebody to call if my parents are not listening to me?
And I think also what comes in play as far as that, the breakdowns, is like, how do I cope with the emotional distress? Like for me, a lot of those activities, the running, the basketball, like going to do dribbling drills, a jump rope, or like just going for a run if I was stressed. Like, I don't know, you and Dad also put in place mechanisms for us to deal with trauma. And I don't know that you all were like intentionally doing that, but like now, if I have like an off day or I'm trying to get my life back on track, I know what a run can do for me. I think a lot of people, they're interested in running for like whatever, for your body, for your dating life and whatever. But like I was able to build a relationship with running that addressed my emotional needs, if that makes sense. And so I don't know, like I definitely feel I feel like almost schizo, like with the way, and no shade, but like almost schizo with the way that I'm like talking about it now, because it was so challenging then. And there were moments when I was really distressed and could not stand y'all for the amount of like, and I don't even I even mentioned like karate or book club or like the tournaments and the national track meets and all of this like traveling and those activities. So like it definitely was a lot, but you all were putting the building blocks in place. I know now.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a lot, because I remember every night my schedule, I would get off work, pick you guys up from either Granny's or Aunt Dot's, and then we just did like I had my own little van route where I was dropping people off at Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, piano lessons, robotics. I mean, it was like, so it was a lot. But
and even at Granny's house doing like the summer camp stuff, like she would put us through summer school. I mean, like doing spelling bee tests and doing all those things. And I think, to your point earlier, you brought up like when do kids get a break to like build those social skills. Like through all that activity, I was able to build. I mean, I didn't have a whole lot of friends, but I was able to like catch social cues, see how people were engaging in different type of spaces. So in some ways, without the breaks, because we didn't get that many, I was still able to like kind of glean some social capacities through all the activity too.
And I remember you. I think you were maybe in college. No, it was after you graduated from Kent State. And you were like, this is the first summer I haven't been at camp.
Right.
The first summer I didn't have AAU or something. Right. And you were like, what do I do? So what do you think? Well, first of all, let's define for people what a scholar athlete is.
Mm-hmm. Scholar athlete. Should I define it, or do you have your?
Yeah, you define it since you were one.
I'll define it. Right. I would say scholar athlete. I mean, scholar athlete is what is more commonly probably called a student athlete, someone who is in a K through 12 situation, but also heavily involved in athletics at a varsity or AAU level, and even further with the goal of like taking their athletic talents to the collegiate level, whichever level that may be, D1, D2, D3, but like are also looking to like further, because you have some people who played sports and it just was like You know, it kept them active. It kept them out the house. It really became like a form of babysitting for the parents that had to work late. But like, I think for the for most scholar athletes coming out of Ohio at the time I was coming up, it was very much like, how do I go to college and not have to pay? How do I find ways to assimilate, you know, in Northeast Ohio when Section 8 is opening up in Solon, in Twinsburg, in Bedford? How do I assimilate into these very white spaces that I may not be accustomed to, but now I'm here and I want to like make a name for myself and build a future for myself? And so I would say scholar athlete is all those things. Someone who is looking at their academics very seriously as a way to advance them socially, economically, emotionally, psychologically, but also looking at the athletic opponent as something that can pay their bills and help them as far as education.
Wow, that's perfect. So
I usually have perfect answers.
You sure? Yes, you do. So how can a parent who, okay, so first of all, what can a child say to their parent when they don't want to do it anymore? And is there a point where, like, you guys always told us that, but we didn't really listen. But if I mean every parent, I think, you know, thinks their kid is going to be, or hopes that their child, I don't want to say think, but hopes that their child can play basketball at a level like, you know, a Kobe or a LeBron James, or you know, run track like what's his name? Hussein, right, you know, or play tennis like Venus and Serena.
Right.
And we can, I think we walk a very thin line as parents, because we're thinking also, you mentioned the financial aspect of, you know, college is expensive.
And getting more expensive.
And so parents are also looking at, if I can get this kid a scholarship, that's $100,000 I won't have to come out of my pocket. Or they just can't go to school.
Right.
So I think parents walk a really thin line of pushing their child to the point where they're able to qualify for those scholarships, or pushing them to the point where they get overwhelmed, burnt out, injured, and drop out.
Yeah. Honestly, I have so many thoughts. So, like, being a teacher now, I'm thinking about the babies and how stressed they always are just about any work you ask them to do. And I'm thinking about, like, how when we were younger and we were doing all the activities and being like, you know, I used to challenge Dad, like, I used to ask that question, like what I was talking about earlier, why can't you just be a dad? Why are you always a coach? And, you know, he would bring up, as you would bring up, like, paying for school, the need for, like, a social, intellectual capability, for, like, you know, all these things. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, all I know is I'm at practice and I'm dribbling this ball. I would like to be somewhere else. And I think
I would like to be by the pool. I would like to be
by the pool.
Laying in the backyard.
The lessons did not teach me how to swim. But I think now what I understand is that, like, it's invaluable experience. Like, life is, you know, people say, you know, when they talk about whatever situation, it is what you make it. And life is very much what you make it. And I think whether we liked what we were doing or not, I do appreciate the exposure at the end of the day. I didn't then so much all the time. Like, I did once I started getting good at track and basketball and did see it as ways to just get away from my very large family. I appreciated it much more. But now, very large, very loud family. But now I understand that we were I don't know, just being a little older, understanding money more. I understand that you all weren't just like trying to keep us out the house or just to, well, we're also not just trying to get school paid for, and I don't know. It just is something that you can't quantify now as an adult in the world and dealing with people, all different kinds of people, and having this, like, now I have these experiences with all different kinds of people because of those activities. And so as much as I understand that strain, it's hard for me to discount the strain, even the need for strain for people who are high achieving, who want to, like, go for something. Like, I learned how to accomplish my goals by being a track athlete and losing at the district meet and saying next year I'm going to nationals, I'm going to the state meet, and promising my teammates I would get us there. You know, so it's hard for me to discount those experiences or to see them as toxic in any way, even though there weren't any breaks. Like, what were we going to do otherwise? Like, I wonder now about kids who do sit on the couch, sit behind their phones, and they're engaged, and there is even an intellectual engagement with a lot of the technology. But, like, their physical body, that detachment they have to, like, a rash or to a sore or, like, in their back, or like people don't have this connection to their physical being. And I think a lot of it, you know, the technology is technology and we love it and we're going to do it. But I think if you can implement some things early on to make people familiar with their physical selves, that development can't be discounted no matter if you're getting a break or not.
And that is, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. You know, we live in the U.S. There was a study, and I cannot remember who did it, but these scientists...
Some girl somewhere that's super smart.
Yeah, that's super smart.
Right.
They predicted that this generation of kids would be the first generation to not live as long as their parents, because they don't have that level of physical activity, and because childhood obesity, as we know from Michelle Obama, is so rampant in this country that it's, you know, children's lives are at risk because they're not getting just the basic minimum of, you know, physical activity. So the disconnect is real, not just for the kids, but also for the parents. Yeah. But what do you say to the kid who says to their parent, or how would you tell a kid, you know, because I've seen kids who have burnt out and just don't want to do it anymore. That behavior usually, you know, erupts into really bad behavior or a constant fight and struggle between the parent and the kid. So what can, you know, when is enough enough? When can a kid say, I don't want to, you know, play basketball anymore. I don't want to be an AP everything. Like my brain needs a break. I don't want to be an AP everything and then have tutors on the weekend and, you know, piano lessons and, you know, extra language, you know, language tutors. When can a kid say, or can they? Because, you know, the goal is college. Right. So how can they, you know, navigate that relationship with their parents without both of them just completely tearing each other apart?
Right. I have been drinking wine, but I'm white wine, you know, it's early. We don't do red until late. But, like, but
I'll have to remember that.
I can. Like, so the initially when I'm thinking, you're like, well, so when do, you know, these kids get a break? And to be honest, I'm thinking about Black kids that are like in parks and are playing basketball and are trying to like make their dreams come true, or trying to provide a better situation for their families. And you're asking like, when do they get a break? And I'm thinking about some people who, you know, have made it, or who have at least, not even at least, but who are Black Americans and have put their families in a position to grow their family's wealth, or to redirect their family's health, their medical history. And like through athletics and through engagement, we've been able to cultivate our culture as Black Americans here. And so I'm wondering, like that break you were talking about, I'm not saying that it's not necessary at point, but I don't know when you get that break. I still haven't gotten that break. Like, as much as, you know, it was like, oh, mom and dad put me in this thing, or like dad wants me to go do this, or like mom wants me in piano with like this creepy dude who might be weird, but like he's a good pianist. But it was also like now this behavior set in place and this know-how about the world, where I realized that this is a survival game. And I think a lot of kids don't realize, you know, we used to ask dad for breaks, and he was like, you know, he was like straight up no, but he would try to explain to us what the goal was. Like, we were playing and we wanted to score 30 points, we wanted to run faster, we wanted to be stronger, we wanted to hang out with our friends, but we knew college was the goal, but we didn't know what money was. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't know, like, oh, college is $20,000, and that's not just something that pops up, you know? And so, like, I don't know when you get a break. I still haven't gotten a break. Like, I'm still very much at work. I'm still very much trying to find more ways to get involved in my community, to make money for my goals, to push my writing, to find new endeavors, to engage my brain and my intellectual curiosity. Like, I'm still trying to also take a break. You know, I came to New York and I went to the new school, got my MFA, and I was like, okay, for the next year, I'm going to sit on the couch, I'm going to teach some classes, do some workshops, but I'm going to give myself time to relax. And that's been a really important point for me to make, but I know that I couldn't employ that into my life, this need for, like, rest. Because I get it. Like, a lot of Black people will work, and that's also why we died early. You know, we stressed ourselves to the point where, you know, we quit on life, and we quit on relationships, and we quit on ourselves, we quit on our dreams, and I get it, and there's a long history behind all of that. And so I found it very important coming out of my MFA, coming out of AmeriCorps, coming out of undergrad, and, like, moving to New York. And New York is a mother effer. So, like, trying to find ways to pause, to rest, to breathe, to take a nap, to drink, just focus on drinking water and getting my skin popping, like, that has been important things that I've started to try to implement in the last year of my life. But it's like I didn't until I set a financial life up for myself where I could literally afford a break. You know, some people are like, I can't afford a break, but they're saying it kind of metaphorically, like they got the money, but they can't afford it just because of the, like, existential kind of dread and pressure to succeed, and that whole, like, U.S. capitalism thing of, like, your worth is measured by your productivity. And so trying to address all that by saying, I'm not doing shit this summer. You know, like, I'm just going to, like, but then in the same way, I'm like, I'm not doing shit this summer, but, like, I'm working on a book. I'm working on a short film. I'm working on a documentary. So really just finding, like, how can I repurpose my energy in regenerative ways? I think a lot of people who are asking for a break really want a break from the shit they don't want to do. So how do I take the skills that I've learned from the stuff that I don't want to do and repurpose them into, like, fruitful and fortuitous things for myself, for my community, for my family. That's what I've been trying to do. Trying to breathe.
But you're talking now as a 26-year-old
right.
who had gone through it. But what about the 16-year-old?
Who has medical bills?
Right. What
because they
about
want their
the
money back.
16
Oh, my God.
What about the 16-year-old who has spent the summer, traveling with their AAU team, or spent the summer doing two-a-days, or spent the summer at some kind of academic camp where they're being tutored and, studying for the SATs and the or ACTs. Like, there's these, I've never been in the field of mental health and working with these kids for the past 11 years. I can see the level of stress from the difference in the level of stress from when I first started way back in, 2000, whatever. And, and now, and when you bring up the whole, financial and the financial reward of this hard work and the capitalist system in which we live and all of that, seeing these kids, they understand that if I don't get these grades, I can't go to school. If I can't go to school, then I cannot get out of this environment that I'm in.
But I think that's the part that I want to, get my students at least to rethink is, if you can find a hustle, and that's the part, I do understand people want breaks.
The hustle is real, baby.
The hustle is real. But also, so like I was saying earlier, all these activities that you all put us in, that you and Dad put us in, they also helped us, because, Melissa, Martha, John, and Alex, too, it helped us find other outlets for ourselves. And so I understand, the 16-year-old urgency for, a break. Ooh, I have the hiccups. Ooh, a white wine. A white wine will give you hiccups. Red will give you heartburn. White will give you hiccups. But so, I understand this urgency for, I need a break. But I think what I found to be more important is finding. So I have to go to this activity. I have to prepare for my future. I have to do school, whatever the things are. How do I engage them on my own terms? How am I a track athlete and do the track thing, but in the way that I want to do it? Maybe my goal isn't to be at the state track meet. Maybe I just want to use this as a social opportunity to connect with some people, make some friends, get invited to some parties, get invited to some parties. What are you doing? It's high school. But so I want people to acknowledge that need for rest, because I think it's important for Black people to acknowledge that need for rest, but I don't want people to walk away from this conversation and discount the need for activity. I don't think that your rest has to come from the lack of activity. My rest, as much as I pay my bills and build my world with books and with writing and movies and scripts, I also am finding ways to rest in that same vein. So I'm watching TV hella, and I'm resting, and I'm also kind of building, tapping into my imaginative capabilities to build a professional life for myself. Very passively, depending on the day, depending on my need to replenish, how much energy do I have to give to this thing. But I don't know, it's hard for me to tell a 16-year-old to take a break, because you're 16. I think the thing that, and I used to hate it too. Dad, we used to go, we're tired. And Dad's I don't understand how you're tired. You're 16. And it's because I've worked out 3 times today. And I'm not saying that people aren't tired. I'm not saying people don't need their rest. But I'm saying there's a way to rethink those situations and to readdress them so that they are actually fitting to what your needs and idea of who you want to be as an adult is. I went to practice one time with these too small shoes on some bucket type shit. Excuse me, mother. Just because I'm like, Dad, I'm not running the mile today. Like, what? I'm going to put these shoes on so I literally cannot run. Now, that did cause some friction, you know, to put it pleasantly, between me and Dad. But, like, I also got my point across. You know, I think kids, your voice isn't always...
But in order to get your point across, you had to, like, self-sabotage yourself.
I didn't self-sabotage, though. I sabotaged whatever idea Dad had for me as a track athlete. I didn't self-sabotage. I got what I wanted out of it. I didn't practice that day, and he understood that I never wanted to again. Like, I didn't run track again until I was doing basketball, and I wanted to get better at basketball, and you told me you would give me $50 if I ran track in 8th grade. And so I was like, oh, bet. I'll run. You know what I mean? I'll do high jump because it'll make me a better athlete. So, like, I don't know what I'm saying, but what I do know is that a large moment for me was finding ways to take back my agency. And so, yeah, you put me in all these events. I get it. I've had the experiences. Now I know what I do and don't want to do. And I think that's also it. Like, approaching it, your bills can be paid. College can be paid for. It really isn't that hard to, like, get it paid for. And I know I may sound like bombastic or foolish when I say that, but, like, we can figure out how to get school paid for. What we really need to do now that you're 16 is find the thing that you really want to invest your time in. And that can't be a decision that your parents make because we want you to take this past 18. So find the project, find the activity that you can really invest in and grow your little life around for the next 5 years. You know, so that you can date the girls, date the boys, go to the places, wear the clothes, and drink the stuff.
So let me read you this from a 2006 paper that was written by Krystal, Beamon, and Patricia A. Bell. And I will list this in the show notes for anyone who wants to look it up. But their study looked at academics versus athletics. It was an examination of the effects of background and socialization on African American male athletes. Mm-hmm. And what they found is they said the consequences that have emerged from this phenomena include an over-identification with athletic achievement to the detriment of academic achievement. So what do you think about that?
I experienced that. I can't lie. Like, early on, my goals around, like, once I got to college, okay, what do I want to do? And I'm trying to have, like, some ideas for my life. And people are telling me, oh, you're a track athlete. Like, what do you mean you want to be a writer? Because they knew me as an athlete, that identification piece. Like, I identified as an athlete until I wasn't trying to, but it was still, like, implored on me, like, you're an athlete. So I did sport administration. And while I was studying at Kent my sport administration degree, my goal at the time was, like, how do we answer that? So, like, at the time, my idea was, okay, I can start a program where we are building up middle school, high school students athletically so that they can get the athletic scholarship, D1, D2, or D3. I think that's an important distinction because a lot of people are just going D1 because they think that's where the money is. You can also, less so at the D3 level, but there are academic things that we can work out, books and housing things that we can work out. But at the D2, D1 level, we can get your school paid for, depending on the sport, depending on your ability, whatever. But I found myself wanting to, like, create programs around mentoring students through middle school, high school, so that they can be a college athlete, staying with them in a mentor capacity through college, and then helping them post-college find work that aligns with their interests. And so I know what you mean. I know what you're talking about. I experienced it when I was at Kent State. I didn't want to run anymore. My coaches could tell. they're like, all right, girl, I think you should step off. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just go home, drink this Hennessy and cry because you're right. And, like, what I had to learn was, like, who are you outside of track and field? Who are you outside of basketball? There's this moment and disconnect. You know, we talked about earlier the disconnect you have with your body, but the disconnect then you have with when you're so in tune with your body, right? Like, you're so in tune with who you are as an athlete, who you are as a physical person, that you lose, a lot of us lose this kind of intellectual know-how we have about ourselves. And, I mean, you know, there's a lot of people popping up programs, Bob Nance in Cleveland, that are trying to address that kind of, it's kind of disassociative. Like, oh, I don't know who I am outside of, like, holding a ball or putting on cleats or running down a thing, or even the fanfare. A lot of us are so used to that approval and that affirmation that once we enter, like, a workforce where people aren't applauding us for our jump shot or for, like, what we got done, the task we got done today, it's like, well, what the fuck? Why does no one care? You know what I mean? And so I think we address that. I think we address that by, you know, if we are the support system for the athlete, you know, asking them a simple question of, like, well, what else are you into? And when they answer, like, they may, or I want to even say most likely will, I don't know, we help them down that journey of finding out. You know, let's sign you up for this club. Let's get you in contact with this other former athlete who now is doing summer camp counseling. You know, like, I did sports. I didn't do kids until my mom, you know, until you were like, hey, you're about to work at the YMCA this summer. And I was like, okay. Like, it wasn't, you know, if you weren't there to take my hand in that moment, I don't know that I'm a teacher now. And so I think it's important for those students, you know, they're talking about that in that study, to have support systems that are interested in the person outside of their athletic capability.
So wouldn't that be their parent, though? I mean,
I think it's the parent, but I think it's the community at large. Like, if I'm as a Solon, Ohio athlete who played varsity at Solon High School, they're naming donuts after me in Dunkin' Donuts during, like, district and regional meets, like, around that time of year. Like, I need y'all also to be interested in me and care about my well-being outside of, like, what I can do as an athlete. And I think that's where, you know, we aren't having a race conversation, but aren't we always? Like, that's where we see a lot of Black kids get left behind, get left out, get looked over, where it's like, well, what can you do for me lately kind of thing? Like, well, you aren't shooting threes. Like, you can't, like, keep my books or do administrative duties or take the internship at the place with the guy who writes. Like, but we can. And so I think it's important for the community at large, the way that they embrace us for our athletic prowess, to also look at us for opportunities outside of athletics. Because you know what it's like. White people in Solon who are getting all this, like, fanfare for your community based on what we can do on the court. You know that you're paying actual bills. You know that we won't be 16 forever. So, like, where is that investment outside of what we are doing on the field or on the track?
So, okay.
Right. Because it's a whole thing.
Deep breath. But it's a real thing, because now you have these athletes and academics. It's almost like a kid has to choose. Do I go the academic route, or do I go the athletic route? Do I go the athletic route and keep my grades at a 2.5 or 2.7 so I can play through high school? Mm-hmm. And get into a college and play, you know, for 4 years, praying that you don't get injured? Or do I, you know, say, I'm not going to go the athletic route. I'm going to take the academic route. But then, you know, where's the fanfare there? Those kids are not the mathletes are not getting donuts named after them. Right. You know, they're not getting parades. There's no booster rally or, fanfare when they come home with the medal. And then we didn't even talk about, it depends on what sport you play.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And all sports do not get love.
All sports are not equal. They are not equal. And so parents are not pushing their kids to play golf. I mean, they were when Tiger came along. But before that, nobody was pushing their kids to play golf. Even though golf is a sport that you can play pretty much all your life, and the biggest business deals are made on the golf course and not the basketball court.
Right.
But we are not pushing our kids to play golf. We are definitely not pushing our kids to bowl, to be bowlers, even though bowlers make a very good living.
I know, but who can even stand more than one game of bowling?
Don't send me any hate mail, all you bowlers.
Ooh, after one game of bowling, I'm like, are y'all ready to go? Or you want to play again? I'm going to watch.
But I think that it is the parents' responsibility. I think one of the reasons that we put you in a variety of things was so that your sole focus would not be on either academics or sports.
Right.
So we put you in Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, and everyone played an instrument, and everyone did volunteer work at church. Because we wanted you to know that there were other things besides that you were other things, that you were something else, that your identity did not depend on how well you dribbled. Is that right? Dribbled?
Yeah.
Dribbled the basketball, or how fast you ran the 440. And
come on, 440.
That's why, and I think parents, and I know, believe me, as a parent who sent 4 kids to college, I know the toll that it can take on a family financially, but also I know that if you don't give your kid that other foundation, so that they don't lose their identity. Because if you go and you get hurt, God forbid, the first year, who are you?
Right.
So you get hurt and you're not really good at your academics, and you don't really know how to behave in social situations, because the only social situation the only people are people on your team.
Right.
So I think that the community, yes, that whole it takes a village, right. But I think that the parents must be the foundation on which the student athlete is able to achieve success. The parent has to be the one that sets the vision for the family. The parent is the one that creates the foundation, not the kid. Not the kid.
But my issue is that with the amount of connectivity we have now through social media, through just seeing people around with all these shops and markets popping up depending on where you live. I am, in the amount of engagement we have on communal and interpersonal levels, I am interested in challenging the relationships. I am interested in challenging the village. The village will stand by and just watch you play ball, watch you hurt your knee, watch you struggle after, and not even offer you like an assistant coaching job at the local fucking high school that I put up 3 banners in and broke all the records in, you know? And so I do want to challenge the village in saying, like, as far as student development, yeah, you know, we put that on the parents because, you know, parents, raise your kids. Ain't nobody about to do that for you. But at the same time, community, like, check in and support these kids, because all of the entertainment and all of the evenings out and conversations you're having about what they did on the field, on the court, in the classroom, at the mathlete tournament. Shout out to the mathletes. I'm not a hater. We, like, how do we, I don't know, I'm very interested in how we support these students outside of what we kind of, outside of the pedestals we put them on. You know, if a kid blows their knee, how do we hold them down?
And then, but is it, if you have a kid who's, you know, their whole identity is playing football or running track, or, you know, that is also their parents' identity.
Oh, true. My dad ran track. I ran track for his approval.
Right. And
my dad loves me. I'm running.
But that's also the parent's identity, because the parent, you know,
as an extension of their kid.
As an extension of their kid, because if your kid is shooting threes and you know, blocking shots and what, I have no basketball. I'm the worst basketball.
I mean,
mom.
you were pretty good right there. You named things that were real.
So
you didn't
if
say,
your
like,
kid,
shoot a touchdown.
Right.
I would have hung up. Girl, shooting no touchdowns.
But if your kid is doing that and you're sitting in the stands, you know, then that's you out there doing it. It's the same thing. It's like you're on the field, you're on the court, and everybody's looking around. The village is now looking at you, mom and dad, and saying, oh, good job, you know. So it's like parents have to learn how to separate their own, you know, childhood dreams and childhood fantasies from their kid.
Well, so I have a question. What childhood dreams or fantasies do you feel like you projected onto us?
The academics, you know, academics in our family, that was the bar that, you know, my grandfather set. Granddad Butler, that was the bar he set. He was not able to finish high school because he lived in the South, and the man who owned the land told his mother that this Ian should not be in school. He should be working in the field, and so she pulled him out of school. So that was his thing for all of us, kids, grandkids, and so I passed that down to you guys. Like, yes, you will graduate from high school, and you will go to college, or you will do something comparable. So that, but also the arts, you know, taking you guys to the Cleveland Orchestra, to the Cleveland Museum of Art, best museum in the world. You know, making sure you guys had piano lessons. And, you know, I wasn't able to do Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and do piano. My mom was a single mom. You know, Grandma Ruby did not have the money to do that with 3 kids on her little check from the dry cleaners. So I wanted that for my kids. I wanted you guys to know what it was like, and I wanted you to be able to move comfortably in any situation. Being African American children from, a divorced home, it was like I felt you already had a strike against you. Well, two strikes, being black and being from a single parent.
But it was early 2000s. Everyone was getting divorced. It's like the towers fell, and people were just I can't be with you anymore. It's like, what?
But I felt that, I wanted you guys to be able to move in any situation, to have any conversation with anyone, black, white, from the president of a major corporation to the mailman. I wanted you to be comfortable being able to express your feelings. And, like we were saying today, when I speak, you understand what I'm saying. Like there's no, I wonder what she meant. No, I was very clear, and that's how you got.
Me and John were talking about this earlier. I was like, John, I'm a very clear communicator. Like, I don't really mince words. I'm not trying to, I can be persuasive. I got this game. I can persuade people, but, I'm not really trying to. I'm just saying what I mean and saying what I feel. It's interesting to hear you say that you would you wanted us to have this, capability to walk in any room, talk to anybody, depending on their position or level or whatever. Because me and Martha, the youngest, the baby, we were talking about that same thing. And even me and Melissa, the technical middle child, though I was treated like the middle child, we were talking about, it was another conversation for another podcast episode, but we were talking about, how we can talk to anybody, just last week, actually. So it's interesting to hear you say that was, an intention of yours, because I think we were, self-congratulating in that moment of, oh, I could talk to anyone. I go into the room and people just want to hear me, or whatever. And it's interesting to hear you say, that was an intention of your parenting style.
That was an intention of my parenting style. Yeah. That is what I wanted for you. I did not want you to, get looked over and I think that's one of the reasons,
or talked over.
Or talked over.
To cut you off. It's like, we're a loud family. I'm actually going to cut you off, sir, ma'am.
Right. And, and I think that is one of the things. Now, I mean, I truly believe that parents have to watch, how being under this athletic or academic pressure affects their child. They have to be watchful. They can't, stick their heads in the sand and hope little Johnny or little Susie, is okay, because then little Susie is in the bathroom cutting her thigh to make herself feel better. And those are real things, right? Those are real things. Or she's, overeating and then making herself throw up. She's purging. So these are how kids
It's like a mechanism of control. How can I
I have to have some control over some part of my life. And so this is the only part that I can control. But on the flip side of that, I do see how being on a team, being an athlete, traveling at such a young age, around the country, playing ball in different arenas, in front of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, running track at state with a full stadium, and still being able to do that, under that pressure, still being able to perform under that type of pressure, but that translates into the real world also.
Yeah.
And when you do go for job interviews and you're like, I ran track for Kent State. Oh, I mean, that's like a whole different avenue and talking point for employers, because they're like, oh, well, what discipline means, what it means to be a team player, what it means to support,
stick to something. For millennials, a lot of us are jumping from job to job every year, every 2 years, because we don't like to be tied down, and I get it. But we also, through athletics, are able to show that we can stick to something for more than what you may expect a young person nowadays to stick to something.
Right. So this has really been a good conversation. Do you have any final thoughts on the topic? What you're talking to little Johnny and little Susie. What advice can you give them? As someone who has walked in this.
I know what I'm going to say, because this is what I'm going to say.
What you going to say?
If you, I think most kids come into the world knowing who they are, and then they get asked questions, which can be intimidating when you're a young kid, just being asked any question, like, are you hungry? Oh, I don't know. I just ate earlier. I think I felt the rumble. I don't know. I want young kids to know, one, activity and engagement is super rich. It's super fun. It's also nice to do it and then quit and find out what's manageable for you, what is actually fun for you. But also when people talk about intuition, when people talk about that gut, most people talk about listen to your gut type thing. Listen to your gut. Really, I feel that's been one of the best guiding lights for me outside of the amazing parenting that I've received. No shade. I mean that. I think y'all did a really good job with the project that is the Thompson Reed family. Y'all really worked it out and did something super special. And I think we all are going to change the world. And I mean that in big ways that sound ridiculous to people who don't have dreams. We're all going to change the world. And part of that is, a large part of that is the parenting, but a large part of that is through the activities. And I will say this also, in all of those activities, we all quit. We all, at the end of the day, had to listen to our gut and say, I'm not running anymore. I'm not playing basketball anymore. I'm not going to those events anymore. And so I want to implore young people to listen to their gut, listen to their intuition, and go for what they want to go for. Don't let the drag of participating in things you don't want to participate in quench your creative mind, quench your imaginative capabilities, because that's also how you're going to find the path and the activities and the job markets and the friends that are really going to hold you up and make this life worthwhile, is having an imagination and picturing whatever you see, however you see yourself in your mind, and going for it day to day. How do I fulfill this vision I have? Don't let the mundane nature of repetitiveness crush your vision. You're sharp, you're young, you might be cute, and
they're all cute.
I'm not that liberal.
Oh, God.
I ain't gonna call
You're
it
not
that cute.
Okay.
I ain't going, but I ain't going. But no, what I mean, I mean that. Everybody, go for your thing, and don't let that pressure to be a specific thing deter you from whatever that real idea of yourself you have in your mind is. Because when you've grown, and you really can be grown at whatever age you decide you want to be grown at. I think people feel held back a lot of the times because they get stuck in this idea of security and safety that other people are providing, and they don't realize till it's too late a lot of the times that they could have provided that safety and security for themselves. And so step into that and, like, you know, live your life the way that you see your life. And let your parents throw you into some random things so that you can try a bunch of stuff and not waste your time later. Bowling, you know, not my thing. Will never take a date bowling because why would I ruin it off rip? Like, I don't know.
Once
Maintain
again,
yourself.
bowler. Please.
Right. No shade. It's
one
no
man.
shade.
This is one man's shady opinion of bowling. Matt, tell us where we can find you. Like, what are you working on now, and where can we find it?
So I'm working on a collection of poetry. You can find some poems at Winter Tangerine Review, Juked Poetry, the Seventh Wave magazine, and other places. Some essays at Race Baiter, at Laugh Spin, at Brooklyn Magazine for some profiles as well. And if you want to get more into my work and into my, like, headspace, I like to call it, you can follow me at Blonde Matt. That's BLONDEMATTMATT. We're going with the female blonde because, you know, it's just cuter with the E on the end. And, yeah, we're doing some cool things, working on some shorts, some docs, more work to come. But, yeah, social media through Blonde Matt is the best way to follow me for now.
Well, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Mom. This was cute.
This was awesome. This is the first, I hope, of many collaborations.
Thanks.
So if you guys have any topics that you would like us to tackle, you can email them to me at wtylwellness@gmail.com. And until we speak again, remember, you are stronger than you give yourself credit and more blessed than you know. Talk to you soon. Okay. Bye, Matt.
Bye-bye.
Just play, have fun, enjoy the game. Michael Jordan. Well, ladies, episode 23 of the Welcome to Your Life podcast is a wrap. Did you enjoy it as much as I did? This episode was so informative and enjoyable for me because as a single mom, I have to tell you that I worried a lot that I was pushing my kids too hard. I wanted them to excel in academics, sports, community service, and all of the other activities that I had them in, not just to prepare them for college, but to prepare them for life. And I'm glad to hear from Matt that all of my encouragement worked out for their good. If you have a topic that you would like Matt and I to tackle in a future episode, just email it to me at wtylwellness@gmail.com. We will definitely give you a shout out for your suggestion. And ladies, don't forget, the Ruby L. Stewart Health Coaching Scholarship is now open. There are only 10 scholarships available. The scholarship allows the winner to take $200 off the Welcome to Your Life 30-day or 90-day health coaching program. Your health is too important to put on hold. So let's schedule some time to talk. Your discovery call is completely free. And remember this, no matter where you are on your wellness journey, you are not alone. Don't forget to subscribe. When you subscribe, you actually help the podcast to get out to more women who need this information. I will talk to you soon. Have a wonderful, productive, and blessed day. Bye for now.